the case study that we want to share with you today, which I worked with Pearl very closely, was using Belbin as a tool for self-reflection, and then building a whole program around it to allow a team in our business to find better ways to work together to achieve the results that they were being measured. Let me shift to the case study, and I'll invite Pearl to talk a little bit about her side of as she was working with us, and what was the approach, and how did she go about helping us navigate that journey. Pearl, may I have you talk a little bit about your experience?
Sure. Thanks, Shalu. And happy to kind of share this experience over here where we worked closely with Shalu's team. This, of course, was a virtual team, and that's why it was also very interesting for us. These were individuals who same team but spread across different geographies. Was to help look at how can this team, not being physically present at the same place, how could we really enhance collaboration amongst them. What we really designed, and what was the most interesting, of course, was the constant connect that we had with Shalu, the HR team, and very importantly, the leader of the team, to understand what is the current scenario, what are aspects that the leader thought also were important. And when Shalu was really talking about the acronym REAL, it's really interesting to see in a way how that kind of, for me, came to life in this experience. This was definitely something that was really leader driven, and I'll start with the step one that's given over here, wherein we leveraged the Belbin team roles for each of the team members to really understand and help them with that self-reflection. What are the strengths that I bring onto the table? What are aspects that I'm not particularly good at? And as Shalu was speaking a little while ago, that reflection and also helping people understand what the team members were bringing onto the table really allowed the whole aspect of respecting the other person and understanding why the other person behaves the way he or she does, and beginning to look at it in a new light. I thought what was really interesting about this design was the step two, where really what was done was that there was upskilling of the business leader to be a collaborative coach. And this particular segment was only with the leader to help the leader understand how do you leverage this tool to bring about collaboration within the team. It was basically coaching the leader to say, okay, how can you really take it forward? And in step three, where we actually had the team debrief. So step one allowed for individual reflection. Step three, when we met together, it was basically the leader who was the facilitator and who actually led that discussion of the team diagnosing what are the strengths, what are areas that we need to look at, what are action points that we need to take on, and for them to get insight into why are things panning out the way they actually are currently, and what are some insights that this tool is giving us. The next step was, again, after about 3 weeks, once the action plan was in place for the team and for individuals, to actually have an online reflection sheet. And the online reflection gave the participants an opportunity to, number one, reach out to us if they had any queries, any clarifications, but more importantly, to kind of do a little check for themselves to say, how much have I really worked on the action so far? Am I really conscious of what we had discussed? Are we taking that forward? And that we thought was really key, because when we got in the inputs from people, well, number one, we had about 40% of the participants, and this was a small group, but of them actually responding to every question on the reflection sheet. And what was very interesting was that all of them, so it was 100% of the respondents that said that they were conscious and they were putting into practice aspects and insights that they got from the session. They were conscious of their team role strengths and leveraging them. Having the reflection sheet, I think, really helped with the last bit, wherein again the team got in together. And mind you, all of these sessions, barring step 3, were all virtual sessions. And therefore, when the team came together for the strengthening impact and strengthening learning bit, it allowed the team to actually share what has been the difference that each of them has experienced in this journey so far. The journey throughout was approximately about 3 months, where we had about a 2 to 3 week gap between each of the different steps. But the sharing that we got from the participants, of them actually saying that, the way they found people responding to one another, the way they realized and they were conscious of what were areas that the team was weak in, and therefore how could they make a contribution to kind of ensure that it does not pull the team down, became really, I think, something that was very insightful for the team and also for us as facilitators to listen into the impact of the intervention. And of course, what you have on the right-hand side over there was the leader sharing her experience. And I really think for me, what made a difference over here was, number one, that these were capsule small sessions had at regular interval. This was also a multicultural team. And therefore, having a tool and a language to enhance that respect and appreciation of differences and behavioral differences, I thought was also really important. Shalu, your thoughts on, on things that kind of stood out for you in this intervention?
Sure. Thanks, Pearl, for sharing the approach. So apart from the fact that Pearl was extremely accommodating and she was extremely open to ideas, because, here's the thing. Some of us, when we practice, in our HR roles, we practice organization design, and we are looking at solving core skill challenges or attitude challenges. We tend to design programs and curriculums which tend to be a little heavy on the face-to-face, in-person kind of interventions, and there is space and value for that. And don't get me wrong, it's important to invest there. But given the fact that you need speed, you need action, and you have your 30 people in different parts of the world who are working on paid client projects, and you have to get them together and get them started, you've got to have an open mindset to experiment being virtual in the way you will even deliver the learning content. And I think one of the biggest advantages of doing it the way we did it was Pearl was extremely open to experiment with us. And I still remember those initial conversations where she said, I would prefer an in-person. Can we try and do it for 8 hours? And then we said, okay, I know this is the perfect way to do, or the ideal way to do, and nothing against it. But what if we try and experiment? So I thoroughly love the fact that our partnership was win-win, because it was not just about we looking at what's the right way to do it, but we were also looking at what will be the most successful way to do something. And we were coming with our constraints, and we were finding ways with the business. In fact, my business partner, who was actually the team leader who invited us to do that, was extremely collaborative with us in discovering new ways of working. And we were highlighting constraints as to what would work and what would not work. And I think that was fantastic, because the participation level from our target audience improved drastically. Had we tried to do, get everybody together in one place, scheduling of that session would have never happened. Two, the cost of running this program would have been exorbitant. And three, the scale at which I wanted to run wouldn't have been possible, because even if somebody said, let's do it, they would have done it only for the DR group. Here, the leader actually got all her 25 to 30, if I'm not wrong, team members together to go through this learning journey. So we kind of put together a journey, if you see step 1 to step 5, which moved from reflection, which is kind of saying, how can I make the unconscious incompetence of not knowing what you do well or what your team does well to come in the way of you collaborating. And when you suddenly realize that, oh, this person behaves like this, not because he has or she has a vendetta against me, he or she is doing this because they prefer to work like this. Brilliant. And if I can change my style slightly, or I can be a little bit versatile in switching my way of operating, maybe there is a higher probability of both of us achieving something faster, which we are both getting measured for. So I think there was the second thing that really stood out for me was a heightened awareness and acceptance in the team of what collectively they did well. And I think the biggest aha, and I was discussing with the business leader later, was this, that collectively the team did not just stop at strengths. As part of the debrief, when they were going through and making their action plans, some of them actually highlighted that, oh, you know what? Some of our project teams in smaller clusters that they had broken their larger vision driven projects into did not have the right team role. So they were like, okay, can I piggy bank on somebody who is not in my team today, but maybe some of the things that person does naturally, can I incorporate them into the way I am operating? Because let's face it, sometimes you just have the people you have, and they might not bring all the necessary team roles to that particular situation to work collaboratively and solve that challenge. But what you could do is this, knowing fully well your strengths and knowing fully well the project needs a particular type of skill or behavior. And if you collectively realize that as a team you're not doing that, then how do you consciously put a little effort to go beyond and either learn it from others or try and practice it a little too often? And when the TTT got done, or the train the trainer in a way that got done for the business leader for being the coach, that person became a great sounding board of coaching her team to say, you could have done it this way, or I suggest you play that role. And it was quite interesting. The team leader was actually very strong on some of the roles that some of the project teams did not have. And interestingly, one of the reflections she had was, when I do team reviews of the project progress, I will see if I can coach them on some of those aspects and encourage them to practice that. So I would say these were some of the biggest aha moments for me personally, Pearl, as we went through this journey of designing this program and launching it.